Army to London! Way! This is the biggest protest of this general election campaign, and that will get recognised across this country, but around the world as well. So let's give a great round of applause to everyone that's here today. Now, there were three key reasons why we decided to go ahead with this march, despite the terrible events in Manchester. Firstly, there's a grim determination in this country that terrorists, people that perpetrate these horrendous acts to scare us and wound us and kill us, will not stop us going about our peaceful lives, will not stop us expressing our opinions during an election campaign, will not stop us taking to the streets and being here to say that this is a wrong thing to say in terms of hunting with hounds. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes!
Secondly, this is a general election campaign. We have 10 days to go. And this government, through its actions of restricting charities, of restricting NGOs in terms of what they can do in campaigning and what they can do in lobbying, has meant that you've had no protest marches up and down this country about closures of hospitals, about poverty in this country, about mental health and all the big important issues that we should be debating, because they have been told that if they infringe those rules, they could face heavy fines, they could be closed down. That is a gagging order that is hurting civil society in this country. Wouldn't you agree? But you know what? This is the fight back. We as individuals, not as NGOs and charities, have come together here today. We are showing the government, no matter what they do under the law to try and restrict organisations for protesting, we are going to come out, we are going to have our voice heard, we are going to protest, yes? And thirdly, when journalists, as they did today on Sky and BBC, asked me, why is it that you're coming out about animals and you're not coming about other issues? And I'm saying this to them. The way we treat animals has a huge impact on the way that we treat people. When people are cruel and sadistic to animals, they're often cruel and sadistic to people as well. Many of us will know that Ian Brady, before he started his descent into depravity and murdering children, used to torture and bury cats alive. Does that not tell us what can happen when cruelty to animals is unchecked? How that can impact upon people? And I do not know what was going through the mind of that young man that chose to blow himself up at Manchester Arena and cause such terror, havoc and heartache across this nation. But I know one thing, if he had a cat or a dog, if he cared for animals, if he was passionate about the people here, about the countryside and the natural environment around him, I don't think he'd be blowing himself up in concert halls, would he? Do you believe he would? No. Because he'd have something to live for, he'd have something to believe in. He'd spread love, not horror and not death. And that's why this movement, which is just as important as the movements that abolished slavery, just as important as the movements that brought civil rights to the world, is the new movement that will make a change in this world in the 21st century. That's making this planet better for animals and better for people as well. But we're also here because the most powerful person in this country, Theresa May, has chosen off her own back to make fox hunting a political issue in this campaign. She didn't need to do it. When she was 6 years as Home Secretary, she took no interest in it. When she was fighting against Andrea Leadsom for the leadership of the Tory party, even though Leadsom brought it up as a campaign issue, she said nothing about it. So suddenly, why is she in love with fox hunting? What brought about this massive change at such a critical time? Well, we all know what it is, as I said on the BBC this morning. She needs people to knock on doors. She needs people to campaign for Conservative candidates in this election. And the hunting and shooting lobby have got her in an arm lock. They will say to her, Theresa, if you want campaigners to get on the streets, we will do it for you, but it will come at a cost. You have to offer us repeal of the Hunting Act. You have to offer us dead foxes, dead hares and dead stags for votes. Do you think that's acceptable? No! It's an absolute national disgrace. An absolute national disgrace. It's playing politics with wildlife. It's playing politics with wildlife, and it should not happen in a modern civilized world. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes!
But it's going to backfire on her. Because if you look at the polls, over 84% of the public in this country think that the Hunting Act should stay. Over 84% of people living in towns, living in the countryside. A massive majority of Conservative voters, some of whom are no doubt here today, think this is abhorrent and should not happen. And that is the case. She is fighting against the public. She is fighting against the will of the people to win some dirty votes in an election. And that's not acceptable, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah!
Now, we all know that the Hunting Act since 2004 is not perfect. It's abused every weekend up and down this country. And I want to pay credit to the Hunt Sab groups. I want to pay credit to the Hunt monitors. Every single weekend you get threats and intimidation and beatings to be the front line of wildlife protection. You're the heroes of that movement. We all salute you today. Without your support, without your engagement, without the sacrifices you make, this law would be even worse than it is today. Wouldn't you agree? And we're not going to allow Theresa May or any politicians to get away with this. The Hunting Act in 2004 took over 10 years of campaigning work in the courts, in the fields, in the streets, in the media studios. And we're going to fight that battle again. We'll be back in the fields, back in the courts, back in Parliament, back in the media. There'll be millions of people. There won't be any candidate for election in this country that can avoid the huge amount of public anger about this issue. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah!
This is political poison, but it's a line in the sand because we know that it's not just about foxes, hares and stags here. We know that there's a huge amount of wildlife crime going on around these hunts. I know for the work I do that an awful lot of badger scents are filled in because I don't want the hounds to move away from the scent. Those animals are killed, it's illegal, and that shouldn't be happening. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And there is no difference between badger baiting where you put dogs down a badger scent to rip them apart, or you set hounds against foxes to rip them apart. The only difference is the social status and the power and influence of the people doing it. The badger baiters don't have the ear of the Prime Minister. They don't have her headlock. But the hunting lobby do. The fox hunting lobby do. It's just as disgusting. It's just as illegal. People should be going to prison. It's sadism. It's barbaric. It belongs in the dark ages, not the 21st century. And Theresa May, you're not getting away with it. Every one of us has a need to keep campaigning and keep fighting. This is a fight back today. We will show the world. This election will be remembered for three things. It'll be remembered for the horror of Manchester. It will be remembered for the disastrous campaign of Theresa May that threw away a huge possible majority and now has to fight for every vote. And it'll be remembered for the thousands of people that came onto the streets on Bank Holiday Monday to stand down the terrorists and say, we are going to be here, we're going to fight for a more civilised country where we protect wildlife, we don't destroy it for votes, because we're a caring, compassionate people and we're a beacon to the world. Thank you.